Well, hey everybody, Mark here, and thanks so much for joining us for this Menlo Midweek podcast. It is a really fun episode with Rachelle Summers and the Reverend Dr. Scott Palmbush, and the conclusion of our Christmas at the Movies series. So this is my chance to personally invite you to hang out with me this weekend. If you are wanting to join us online for our Christmas services, Christmas at Menlo, we will be live streaming at 3:30 on Sunday afternoon with a live pre-show and post-show. So that's available on YouTube or menlo.online.church. And I'll be doing this from the Menlo Park campus, which of course we also have in-person services as well for Christmas at the Movies. And those are happening at the Menlo Park campus on Saturday, 2, 3:30, and 5 p.m., as well as all of our campuses on Sunday at those same times, 2, 3:30, and 5 p.m. So we will see you there. It's a great time for you to come, bring friends and family, as this service is going to be awesome. I have a little preview of it. I was able to see a little bit of what we're showing and playing in the sermon, and it is great. So we'd love to invite you to come, as well as bring some people with you. And we will not be having services. A reminder that we won't be having in-person services the following weekend. So again, your chance to hang out with us, the online team, at 10 o'clock the following Sunday. So we won't have in-person services. That is New Year's Eve. We will be having only online services at 10 o'clock. So I'll see you in person this weekend. I'll see you online this weekend, and I will see you online next weekend. Now let's go ahead and jump into today's episode. Welcome, everybody, to the Menlo Midweek podcast. My name is Mark.
My name is Jessica.
We have two guests with us today. We have the one and only Matt Summers' better half, Rachelle Summers.
My title changes every time.
It does.
That's Mark's favorite thing to do that.
It is.
Yeah.
And then the Reverend Dr. Scott Palmbush.
His is always the same.
Also known as San Mateo Campus Pastor Interim.
Yes.
That's right. I have many titles.
Yeah, Ben White was asking, your name title comes up at the bottom.
Oh, right.
And it says multi-site pastor. And he's like, is that right? Or should I add San Mateo Interim? Is there anything else? I was like, just leave it.
Yeah.
We don't want to list everything.
Yeah. You only need so much on the slide, so keep it simple.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, this is the last one that we're doing between now and Christmas time.
Woo, how exciting.
Which is so fun. And I love that you talked about your hometown a little bit. Is your hometown Cut Bank in Montana, or is that just the school?
Cut Bank
Okay.
is the town, named by Lewis and Clark.
Wow.
Stop it. Really? Like
They
the
were-
Lewis and Clark?
They
the
mentioned
other
it in
ones.
it's actually mentioned, in their journal, which was required reading when you go to school in
I'm
Montana.
sure.
Yeah,
Of course.
Journals of Lewis and Clark. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so we've asked Phil and Jess this question, but what was Christmas mornings like for you? Cut Bank, Montana, Long Island, New York? Is that where you grew up?
Yes, that is where I grew up.
Okay.
Thank you. I answered this question a little bit. Our first week, yes.
Yep.
But I will extend on my answer, I guess. Long Island Christmas was busy, chaotic growing up. Went to multiple families' houses, grandparents. One great memory I have as a child was my dad was a pastor, so we would do Christmas Eve service, and then we would drive to New Jersey to be with our extended family.
Joyzy.
You can imagine how that car ride might be after church all day, 4 kids in the car, and my mom who did all the presents and wrapping.
How long is that drive?
On Christmas Eve, 3 to 4 hours.
Oh,
So
How long would it take not on Christmas Eve?
2-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So, yeah, but it was great because my grandparents are Italian, or on my dad's side, and they don't start Christmas Eve till like 8 or 9 p.m. So we got there just in time. It was no big deal.
Wow.
And you stay up all night, and my grandmother would do something called the Feast of Seven Fishes, and you just kind of like eat and hang out all night. Sometimes we would sleep over and have Christmas morning with my cousins, which was fun, or we would drive home, which was not fun, but at least you're home in the morning on Christmas Day. So, yeah.
That sounds incredible.
Did you guys go into the city and see the big Christmas tree and all that kind of stuff all the time?
We would occasionally, not on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, because the closer you get, the more
Yes.
crowded it is.
Yes.
But fun fact about myself and Matt, one of our early dates, 20 years ago, actually, to be exact,
Oh.
we went to the Rockefeller Christmas tree together on December 11th. 20 years ago. So yeah, it was a really nice date, and saw the tree together, and yeah, then we made it a memory for us moving forward and our kids. Yeah,
Fun.
So fun.
so fun.
So-
Hey, Matt.
Nice job on the Christmas in Rockefeller.
Nice.
Well done.
I would imagine it probably looked and felt the exact same.
Just like that.
Just
Yeah.
like that. Big city lights.
Yeah, we always flew to New York City and had a time.
You drove to Jersey as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, fun fact, my mom's whole side of the family is from South Jersey, so we would go out there, but never at Christmas time.
Yeah.
Yeah. South Jersey.
Yeah.
Do you know what town?
Well, so I was born in Mount Holly,
Oh, okay.
which is, kind of down, more closer to Philadelphia. But
Yeah.
my sister lives in a little town called Hopewell, which is right by Princeton. Anyway, that's my East Coast. That's it. That's
Very
all
good.
I got.
I like that.
Nailed it.
I didn't know it.
Yeah, our Christmas, it's a long time ago now, but we would often open, the one gift on Christmas Eve, which was usually a pair of socks or something that you would wear to the Christmas Eve service, the church service.
Nice.
We went to the little Presbyterian church there, First Presbyterian in Cut Bank, and it was full of oilmen and cattle ranchers and wonderful people. And so I still remember, we would all sing Silent Night with the candles and we'd stand up and line the sanctuary, which we recreated in Mountain View a few times. But,
Yeah, I remember that.
it's the special memories of singing and the cookies and punch afterwards and then going home. But Christmas Day was, it was mostly just our family. We didn't have a lot of extended family that were nearby, so we'd rip open the presents and it was usually 40 below zero outside, so there wasn't
gosh.
a lot of outdoor activity.
The
yeah, I
temperature
lived-
gets that cold?
Yeah,
Your thermometer was broken?
I know, right?
I only lived like 3 blocks from our high school, and I'd hop out of the shower and get dressed and go to school, and by the time I got to school, my hair would be frozen, like literally.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That's when I had hair. It's hard to imagine me with hair and then frozen. But anyway, they were just kind of sweet times. I have 3 younger sisters, and so a lot of fun gifts. My mom loved Christmas and always would get into it. So
When it's that cold, I just imagine it's cold, so there's snow, so it's like a white Christmas, which is enjoyable, but that feels like it's not enjoyable.
no, when it's that cold, it's just awful. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember getting in the car and hitting the turn signal. It just snapped off in my hand. 'Cause it was
Oh
so
my gosh.
Yeah. It's
It's because you're so strong.
This is why
Yeah,
I don't live
too.
there anymore. Anyone watching from Montana Cut Bank,
Yeah.
you're hardy people, and we appreciate you. Yeah.
That's awesome. So when you were flashback to Scott in the First Presbyterian Church there, was there any thought in your mind that you would eventually be preaching for a large Presbyterian church in California?
No, not really. We were. I mean, it was a small church, and there was a little youth group that met during the week, but it was like a young couple in the church, and there was 10 of us. But they didn't have a lot of programs, so we sat in the pew with our parents, shushing us the whole time, drawing on things, and. But I remember as I got older, I really enjoyed listening to the sermons and trying to apply them, and I actually enjoyed singing. When I got into high school, I was in choir in high school, and I sang in the church choir too. And it was like
cool.
it was like 15 people maybe. They were all just sweet and wonderful. And so I always enjoyed being in church. I feel like not everybody loves it, but to me it felt like a safe place, a place where people cared and were interested, and felt like a family to me. So yeah.
Awesome. And now you're teaching.
And here I am. Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
You did it. So we're almost concluding. Was this the last official
This
message?
was the
of
last
series?
Christmas at the
Amazing.
movies. Yeah.
The last one at the movies. So you ended our series, and we've ran through a lot of time, I want to say, different eras of movies. So we kind of jumped ahead to which still feels wild that Elf was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But that's a quick aside. And then you had your choice of choosing whatever original or remake for A Christmas Carol. And I'm glad that you landed on the one that you did. And so why don't you just run us through your message a little bit, maybe Christmas Carol for those that might have missed it, and then we'll jump in from there.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, this is the Christmas Carol it was a book, obviously, or a short story by Charles Dickens. So it has this cultural memory and goes out way before any of the movies or adaptations. I mean, there's been everything you can imagine, right? Kids' books, different ways they had told the story. But I think I was just reading about, we could talk more about that, but this story literally kind of shaped some of the way we celebrate Christmas today, going back to Victorian England. So it's got a lot of history, and it's in our culture, in our psyche, even if we don't remember it. I was talking to people after the services on Sunday, and I forgot that part about the story. Like, they sort of remember it, but they don't really, if they haven't watched or read the story recently, they forget about certain parts of it. But yeah, it's a very pointed story. Obviously, the moral is very clear. The characters are very, told in a way they're not real complicated, right? They're very obvious, kind of what we're getting at. But it does beg questions of our heart and soul, and I think that's what gives it some power. And we're walking, telling the story alongside what we're hearing from Isaiah and the prophet, and what he's saying to Israel, and how that's being heard is kind of trying to hold those two together and weave them together was sort of the challenge of the message. And but what was really helpful is to kind of connect those with the theme of love, and that was our Advent theme for the morning, and also really the theme that unites those two: God's great love for us, and how love can change, we believe, can transform a heart. And we see that in Scrooge when he kind of moves more from he's more of a fear-based kind of thing, but ultimately his desire to be loved and to realize what he's missing, that he's missing love, I think is what gets him there.
You also referenced the Grinch. And I don't know, maybe I'm just a dummy, but I never put together the plot lines of The Grinch and A Christmas Carol are very similar. I was like, how did I totally miss this? The redemption
His
story.
How many
and
sizes?
his 3 times. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it was just me, but.
Yeah, that was fun. I thought, throw a few nuggets in there for the kids. Yeah. I actually had a reference to when Scrooge, chooses money over Belle, his fiancée. I had a moment in there. I was calling it his Gollum moment when he says, "My precious," and I had a picture of Gollum with the ring. But I just thought that would be a little bit of a bridge too far, so we took that out. But we left the Grinch.
But we get it here.
We get it here.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it's just fun, it's a fun series to try to throw those little nuggets in. And there was that line as I was thinking about the story, just popped into my head, and I was like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah, it fit really well.
It did. It's funny too. When we were talking before you got here, we are sharing about Christmas Carol, the different versions. I haven't seen a lot of the versions. I read it a handful of times, not recently.
Okay.
But hadn't seen any of the remakes, and so I just thought how funny it would be if it was just you based it off the Muppets one.
Yes.
The best one, you mean?
Which is the best one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And connecting it to love, you have a character that's so deeply troubled and has a lot of, ailments of their own and vices of their own. And yet we start out, and one of the first, I think one of the lines that pulled me in immediately was how we love today matters into eternity. And that's kind of the central theme of this character's development. So how'd you land there? How does love intersect with A Christmas Carol? And I feel like that kind of takes us to really the heart of what you're trying to communicate.
Yeah, I think the idea of all humanity, that's what we're seeking, right? We want to be loved. We want to know love, to be loved, to experience that. And I think that, the story attempts to go back and say, where did Scrooge go awry? What happened for him? And you see pretty early on that what he experienced was not being loved. I mean, that was his father rejected him because he blamed him for his wife's death. And so Scrooge doesn't feel love except from his sister, ironically. And from Belle. He has two opportunities where he is given love in those stories. And yet the power of that idol, or the power of, and I think that's a cautionary tale too. Like, there are things that drag us away from love. And the way the Bible, another way to talk about sin, another way to talk about things is that's disordered, right? And so that's kind of the language I tried to use, is disordered love is what idolatry is about. We love the wrong things. We love lesser things. And so that's what Scrooge is doing. He's loving a lesser thing. He's very passionate about one thing. And anger, in a way, there's passion and anger. Apathy is actually a worse thing, right? So Scrooge, in all his vitriol, is really crying out for love. And I think the interesting thing about the story is that Marley comes back and gives him a second chance, right? Like, part of me goes, why does Scrooge get a second chance? He is awful. He has chosen his idol. I don't know we don't get Marley's backstory, but he didn't get that, right? But Scrooge, for some reason, gets this chance at redemption, as awful as he is. And that, of course, is a very gospel theme. But yeah, love is, to me, again, the center of the gospel, the center of God's story with his people. And that's where Isaiah comes into, and that very tender, there are the places where God says directly to his people, I love you. They're not everywhere in the Bible. They're implied, but to say those words directly, powerful.
I love that you tied in the story of Zacchaeus at the end, because there's so many times in the New Testament, or even in the Old Testament, where there's this instruction to change, right? To move away from your sin, to move away from your idols and follow God and follow me. Leave all your possessions and follow me. But it's radical hospitality and radical love that changes Zacchaeus' heart. It's not Jesus saying, you took all these people's money around you. You really messed up with your community. It was just Zacchaeus being curious and Jesus noticing him that changes his heart and says, I will give back everything and double. And I just, I love A Christmas Carol, and I love that story, and I didn't even tie them together. So I just thought it was so beautiful that you did, because, yeah, love, generous love, no strings attached love, is transformational. It really is. But you have to be willing to see it, too. And Scrooge wasn't for so long. Like you said, he had these two women in his life who truly did love him and offered it to him. But he just needed a few reminders. So, yeah.
So good. How does, when we're centering around love and disorder, how do those intersect? So we can see in Scrooge's life that there is a deep longing for purpose and for love. And because he's searching for that, he's searching in the wrong places. So today, as we're listening to this, those themes may or may not, be true in some of our lives or the lives of those around us. In what ways can we help identify disorder in our own lives, and in what ways can we invite God and his love into that process?
Great question.
Yeah, well, I think identifying those places of disorder it's a lifetime. That's the journey of discipleship, in a way, right? Is how am I following God more closely? How am I responding more to that love and out of that love and out of being loved? Because we do drift, It was sort of my question at the end, like, do you ever wonder if Scrooge backslid? Like,
I thought that was a great question.
I have this, because the story ends, he's like Santa Claus now, right? I mean, he's giving, but, there's probably still a little bit of that in him that was like.
Well, in the spirited version, the one that came out like last year, the year before, he talks about he only lived 2 more weeks and then he died.
Yeah.
And so he's like, so I didn't backslide. Yeah. But it's only because he lived 2 more weeks.
Yeah. We can do anything for 2 weeks, right?
Exactly.
Try doing it for your whole
life. So he's
life.
like, did I actually change? I don't know, because I only lived 2 more weeks.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, and that I think that's the question, right?
Yeah.
We all have experienced that, where we've had a habit, or we felt really close to God, or we felt like we lived in that love for a while, and then we drift, or something else comes along and woos us away, or I think it's this journey it's this prodigal son journey, right? Of we go away and we come back, and we go away, come back. Consolation, desolation is one of the ways that talk about it in spiritual formation. But it is a pattern, and I think it's a lifelong quest to continually reorder our lives around the greatest love that we have. But there's, sin and the chaos of the world continually try to disorder our love. So it's always needing attention.
Yeah. You gave kind of 4 things to pay attention to at the end of your message about God's love, that it will transform us, it will humble us, it will open our eyes, and it will surprise us. And I think I've felt and noticed in this season an extra bit of hurriedness from those around me, from our online community, from people in my life, myself included. And so how can we help pay attention to these 4 things? Maybe in what ways? Maybe now, between now and Christmas. Maybe Rachelle, as a mom, you might be feeling some of these things too, getting ready. What practices could you see being beneficial to focus on from now until this end of the crazy busy holiday season?
Great question. As you were asking me that, I was actually formulating a question to ask you guys, but I will answer. Yeah, I mean, for us, I think I've mentioned before, we don't all attend church as a family on a Sunday, just because it's the stage of life that we're in. So we do like 20 minutes of church together on Saturday mornings. And so with
cool.
Advent, I went to a website to get like a pre-made Advent, box for kids.
Sure.
And it came with a booklet with all the scriptures to read. It came with questions. It came with crafts. You don't have to think about anything. And so I just thought I'm going to make this as easy as possible, but also as intentional as possible. And sometimes as parents, I think we overthink how much time we have to spend, like quality time and spiritual time. But like, I think 20 minutes is a great amount of time to keep everyone's attention for the stage of life that we're in. Or just like, smaller moments, slowing down. But you have to be willing to do it too.
Yeah.
And sometimes life can feel so overwhelming that you don't even know if you have it in you to do 20 minutes or slowing down.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like whatever possible ways, whether it's in the car, not listening to music, maybe talking with your family together, trying to have a meal together, small things like that.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you, Scott?
Yeah, I think those are great answers. I think for women, they said this for women, Christmas is the only thing more stressful than Christmas is death of a spouse.
my
It's on
gosh.
the stress scale. So, yeah, I mean, you're up against. I mean, we're up against this every day, right? But at Christmas time, it ramps up, and I think it's all the things we think we should do or need to do that crowd that in, and they're all good things for the
Right.
most part. So I think a lot of the discipline is just to say what I'm not going to do, or like you
Yes.
said, turn off the music, or say no to a party. I think for Rachel and I, we just said, we could go to this party, but it feels like obligation. It doesn't feel like it. We love these people, but for us, the better move is just to have a quiet night at home, and
Yeah.
it's a little quiet at our house. We
Sure.
we have 2 teenage boys who love to spend time with their friends, and so it's a little easier for us to find those. But I think the idea of noticing and just noticing what's going on inside yourself, then you can be able to pay attention to what's going on around you. And
Yeah.
but I think it's hard, and I don't get it right very often. I often feel frazzled
Yeah.
through Christmas. So
Yeah.
I'll just add one more thing if that's okay.
love
Super
it too.
practical. Thank you for saying that it's very stressful for women. We want to cook and bake all the things, right? And there's like teachers to take care of and parties to be had. I have decided I only make 2 cookies at Christmas time, and one of them is not sugar cookies. I will not make sugar cookies with my kids. And that might sound terrible, but if you don't want to make
kind
sugar
of
cookies
mom
with
are
your
you?
kids, if you don't want the sprinkles everywhere,
yeah, the sprinkles.
solidarity, my friend, because you just don't have to do it. And nobody asked for them. So now that's just fine.
Yeah.
But why spend like an extra hour doing stuff that they don't even eat. My kids don't eat the sugar cookies. Do you guys eat sugar cookies when you get them covered in icing and sprinkles?
If that was the only option, that's what I would choose. Or that's not what I would choose if there were like 4 different kinds. I would be like anything else. But if someone was like, I made you just these sugar cookies, of course I would have some.
Yeah.
But
I
yes,
eat all
I get
desserts that are put in front of me.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's not a fair question.
Gotcha.
But I love that it's just saying, what's something I can say no to,
Yeah.
so that I can just have just a little more room.
Yeah.
And I think, it could be anything, right? That you just feel like, I don't really need to do that.
Yeah.
I think that'll help.
Yeah.
I pride myself on being a pretty good gift giver, but it also adds a lot of stress of like how to, what to get the perfect gift to get everybody. And this year started out financial reasons. I just kind of pulled back a little bit. But then I told people like, you're going to get like a New Year's gift, and everyone's like, you don't have to get me anything or like whatever. And so it actually kind of like, now thinking about it, I'm like, it's kind of released a lot of pressure. So I've been able to relax a little bit more of like, take my time thinking of what the gift is going to be and not worrying about the deadline of, December 25th or whatever. So that's definitely something that's been a little helpful for me this year, is just which started out as just, I can't afford all of these gifts, turned into like a release of that pressure. So it's been kind of nice. Yeah.
And I love that the scaling back with an intentionality of, I want to create margin for myself. And I'm hoping that in that margin, we can allow ourselves to really sit in how God can open our eyes and how seeing that will surprise us. Because I think it's so easy in this type of season to just speed on by and not even be attentive to the ways in which God wants us to be used in this season. And that kind of leads to a question of how, for my neighbors or my friends that might not necessarily be believers or experience God's love, how can we explain this concept of God's love, God being with us in this season through actions, through whatever else that might look like? What ways have you seen it work well, Scott? Or what encouragements could you give for those that might be headed to a Christmas party at work or something like that and say, I want to be a bearer for God, but I just don't know how to do it. So
Yeah, I think the you mentioned kind of the core of it, which is paying attention to people and kind of knowing what's going on with them. I think time and attention, that's Dallas Willard quote, the attention is all love starts with attention. And at this time of year, we live in an area here where there's a lot of resource and people are able to give very nice gifts. And so all those trappings of Christmas are usually pretty much there. But what I also know through just experience and talking with people, right, is Christmas brings up a lot of hard things for people. And a lot of people are faking it all the way through Christmas, trying to be happy, trying to be, where they're not. And so, to help somebody smiling at a Christmas party, just go, how are you really doing? Like, hey, I just want you to know there's something bigger here than, whatever you're dealing with. There's hope. And I think we have that to give, and that's what ultimately, Jesus being born in a little town in Bethlehem. It's, how do I translate that into something that brings people hope? Well, it's the answer. It's God answering His people, and showing them what Isaiah said, that He loves them and He'll be with them. And so. And I think just telling your own story, like, again, that's part of it. Like if people look at your life and you're frantic and you're not very kind because you're, trampling somebody at Target to get that one item that's still, then.
I told you that in confidence.
Yeah, sorry. How we, this is always true, but I think especially at Christmas, I think that it just rings a little heavier and a little deeper because people, I think, are struggling at Christmas time.
Definitely. Yeah. Great. Anything else you would have liked to include if you had had more time?
Besides more Lord of the Ring references and other little nuggets. I think one thing I thought as I was listening, every time you do the sermon, you think different thoughts. So every time you preached a little bit, but Mark Swarner did this in Menlo Park a little bit, but this is really a chance to say yes to Jesus. And I think if folks are listening and wondering if God hears them,
Yeah.
and God loves them, and if there's a second chance, if somebody like Scrooge gets a second chance, right? I mean, God's love is available to everybody. And I think, like Israel, for those maybe wondering, does God care anymore? Does he want to bring me home? Does he, those words of Isaiah, I hope they ring in your heart that he does claim you, that you are his, and that he loves you, and that you can say yes to that love, and let him start to reorder that love in your heart in a way that only he can do. So that's available to anybody. And whether you're recommitting your heart in that sense or whether it's the first time, I just think that would be a great way to end that series, sermon, the whole thing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you want anyone to walk alongside you or help you process during that time, we'd be happy to do so. You can text our team at 650-600-0402. That comes to me and the team here, and we'd love just to enter into that process with you, chat, answer questions, and really just help guide you along this process of figuring out, So I'm excited because if you've been looking on YouTube, you've seen something on Rachelle's mic. And so I'd love to get an explanation of what this is before we go and why you brought it. Is this your gift for us, Rachelle?
This is my gift for the shelf.
Yes.
And I am very glad I remembered to bring it today while Scott was here.
Perfect.
Because the last time we were on the podcast together, we talked about legacy. And I think you mentioned, was it Aristotle or Socrates that kept a skull on their desk?
Oh, yeah.
Well, and John Mark Comer mentions it a lot too.
Right.
But he's referencing, I think, was like, one of the great monks. I can't remember.
Oh, a
which
monk.
one.
Okay. But to be reminded of like mortality and listening to the sermon and then remembering, you actually quoted this from the book as well, from A Christmas Carol, at the end, after seeing all the ghosts, Christmas past, present, and future, and Scrooge has this transformational moment. He says, I will honor Christmas in my heart and try to keep it all the year. I will live in the past, the present, and the future. The spirits of all three shall strive within me. I will not shut out the lessons that they teach. And so I gift the skull as a memory of remembering the past, present, and future, and that we are but mortals. And this is our chance to live here on earth with love and grace and mercy as Jesus has given us, and to be reminded of that every day, and to hopefully choose how we live on a daily basis, receiving love and grace and mercy and extending it to others. So that is my gift to the podcast.
So fun.
That's amazing. Thank you. Awesome.
My pleasure.
Very nice.
So excited. Jess,
Yeah.
Queen of Details.
Yeah.
What do we need to tell people about Christmas Eve,
Come.
about our services,
Be
about
there.
Sunday morning on
Yes.
Christmas morning?
Yes, we've got lots of services, lots of opportunities to show up. Our Menlo Park campus has 2, 3:30, and 5 on Saturday. And then Sunday is actual Christmas Eve. We will have no morning services at none of the campuses. So please do not show up at 8, 10, or 11:30. Those are the wrong times.
8:30, 10,
8:30,
11:30?
10, 11:30. But all of our campuses will have services at 2, 3:30, and 5. So definitely go to one of our campuses and check that out. Mark will be live streaming the 3:30 service.
Yep.
So get on YouTube or menlo.online.church to join in there. And all of our campuses have treats and cookies and probably hot cocoa and beautiful decor and fun music and video and all the awesome things that we always get to experience on Christmas Eve.
And then when we're really excited and we want to come back and invite all of our friends and family and neighbors to church the following week.
No.
No.
Well,
Don't invite our friends to church?
You can. You
Okay.
can invite your friends to church online.
Yes.
Yes.
In your
so
home.
In your home. So make it's
a
an even
viewing party.
easier
Yeah.
ask. Yeah, have a view and ask.
I'm
We
so
say?
excited for that because that's like, it's been a long time since we've all been online for one service.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for like our online community to welcome in everyone else that
Yeah.
are normally in person. And it's just going to be a fun party for us together.
Sunday, December 31st at 10 a.m. Also on YouTube or menlo.online.church.
That's right.
Only online. Don't
Yes.
go to any of our campuses. There will be a nice sign that tells you not to be there. So don't do that. But
Yes.
have your friends over, have a watch party, and then invite them to church on Sunday, January 7th. We start a new series called Wired for Wonder.
Ooh.
Exciting.
It's a good
Nice.
series. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Jess.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Text us if you need anything. Scott, thanks so much. Rochelle, thank you. Jess,
Glad
as
to
always,
be here.
thank you. And have a Merry Christmas.
Yes,
We don't see
Merry
you. And we'll
Christmas.
see you Saturday here or Sunday at any of our campuses or online.
Yes.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Merry Christmas.